Mother-in-law demanded a paternity test. Now she's begging to hold my baby. I refused, and drama exploded. Rachel, a young woman with a warm smile and tired eyes, handed a steaming cup of coffee to Mr. Jenkins, the mailman who always had a story to share. She listened with half an ear, her mind preoccupied with the bundle of joy that had recently entered her life. Rachel's thoughts were a whirlwind of love and anxiety, a cocktail that had become all too familiar in the past few weeks. Mr. Jenkins, noticing Rachel's distant gaze, paused in his story about the mysterious old lady who had moved into the neighborhood. He cleared his throat and leaned in slightly, his kind eyes reflecting the late afternoon sun that streamed through the kitchen window. "Is everything all right, Rachel?" His question, though simple, held a depth of concern that Rachel hadn't anticipated. Her quiet nod of acknowledgement was all it took for Mr. Jenkins to understand that she needed to talk. Rachel's nod was more than just a polite response. It was a silent confession of the tumultuous storm brewing within her. The unspoken bond between them grew stronger with each shared story and secret glance. Mr. Jenkins had a way of making her feel seen, even when she didn't have the words to express what was happening in her life. The baby cooed from the other room, a sweet sound that seemed to echo the love Rachel felt in her heart. But there was a shadow cast upon it all. The hurtful words of her mother-in-law, the doubt she had sown like seeds of discord. Rachel knew that sharing this burden with Mr. Jenkins would mean opening up about her deepest fears and insecurities. Yet, there was something about his gentle presence that made her feel safe, as if the walls of her house were the only bastion she had left against the world's cruelty. As Rachel began to recount the events that led to her current predicament, Mr. Jenkins' expression grew serious. He knew better than to interrupt, allowing her to speak her truth without judgment. The weight of her words filled the room, the tension palpable as Rachel spoke of her mother-in-law's betrayal. But it was her voice, steady yet trembling with emotion, that told the real story, a tale of a woman fiercely protecting her family from the jaws of doubt and spite. The silence that followed was pregnant with understanding, a rare commodity in Rachel's current circumstances. Mr. Jenkins took a sip of his coffee, his eyes never leaving hers. Rachel felt a flicker of hope in the face of the chaos, knowing that she wasn't alone in this battle for her family's peace. The bond between them grew stronger with each shared secret, hinting at a friendship that could very well change the course of their lives. The next few moments were filled with a quiet determination as Rachel gathered her thoughts and Mr. Jenkins offered his support. The air was thick with the scent of coffee and the promise of alliance, a potent combination that made Rachel realize she could handle whatever came next. She had an advocate in Mr. Jenkins, someone who understood the gravity of her situation without the baggage of family ties. Together, they formulated a plan to address the looming issue with her mother-in-law. Rachel knew it wouldn't be easy, but she felt empowered by the wisdom of her unlikely confidant. As Mr. Jenkins finished his coffee and prepared to leave, Rachel felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that she and her husband had to stand firm, to protect the innocence of their newborn daughter from the toxic cloud that threatened to engulf them all. With a firm grip on the now cool mug, Rachel walked Mr. Jenkins to the door, her mind racing with the potential consequences of their conversation. But she also felt a strange sense of peace, knowing that she had found an ally in the most unexpected of places. As the door closed behind him, Rachel took a deep breath, ready to face whatever was to come, her heart swelling with the love for her child and the support of the kind neighbor who had become so much more. The evening light painted the living room in a soft glow as Rachel sat on the couch, her thoughts racing. She picked up her phone and scrolled through pictures of her daughter, her chubby cheeks and tiny fingers serving as a stark reminder of the love that had brought her into this world. Rachel's jaw clenched as she remembered her mother-in-law's text. The audacity to question her baby's lineage was more than she could bear. Her eyes narrowed in determination as she dialed her husband's number, the sound of the ringing piercing through the quiet. "Hey," he answered, his voice strained. Rachel could hear the office noise in the background. "We need to talk," Rachel said, her voice firm. She didn't bother with pleasantries. There was no time for that now. "I can't let her hold the baby. Not after what she said." Her husband's sigh washed over the line, a mix of frustration and resignation. "I know it's hard, Rachel, but she's my mom. Can't we just let her come over and meet her? Maybe she'll see her and realize she's wrong." Rachel felt the anger rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. She had her chance, and she chose to hurt us. Our daughter deserves better. There was a pause, and Rachel could almost see the internal struggle playing out on her husband's face, even though they were miles apart. "Okay," he finally said. "I'll talk to her, but promise me we won't make this a permanent thing. We'll figure it out." Rachel nodded, even though he couldn't see her. "For now, we stand our ground. We're a team." The conversation ended with a promise to regroup after work, to tackle the situation as the united front they had always been. Rachel hung up, her hand shaking slightly. The battle lines had been drawn, and she knew that the confrontation ahead would be difficult, but she also knew that she had the strength to fight for what was right. As Rachel rocked her baby to sleep, the gentle rhythm lulling them both into a peaceful state, she thought of Mr. Jenkins' words. She had to be the bigger person, not just for herself, but for her husband and their daughter. But she also knew that being the bigger person didn't mean allowing someone to disrespect her family. The doorbell rang, jolting Rachel back to reality. She took a deep breath, the warm scent of baby powder and milk surrounding her. She walked to the door, the light from the hallway casting a warm glow into the darkening street. Standing on the porch, Rachel's mother-in-law waited, a forced smile on her face and a bouquet of flowers in her hands. Rachel's stomach churned, but she steeled herself. Tonight, she would stand firm, her love for her baby a fortress against the storm of accusations. The door creaked open, and Rachel stepped forward, ready to protect her family with every fiber of her being. But as she took in her mother-in-law's hopeful yet wary expression, Rachel's resolve wavered. Was it fair to deny this woman a chance to know her granddaughter over a hurtful text? Rachel's hand hovered over the doorknob, her mind racing with the words she had rehearsed so many times. But before she could speak, her gaze fell upon an envelope tucked into the bouquet, her name scrawled in a handwriting that seemed eerily familiar. Rachel's heart skipped a beat as she took the flowers, the weight of the envelope heavy in her grasp. Once the door was closed and her mother-in-law was seated, Rachel excused herself to the kitchen. With trembling hands, she opened the envelope, revealing a brittle, yellowed letter. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was from her mother-in-law's younger days. Rachel's eyes widened as she read the heart-wrenching words, a tale of love, betrayal, and a child lost to adoption. The letter spoke of a time when her mother-in-law had faced the same accusations she had thrown at Rachel, the same doubt that had tainted her own motherhood. Rachel felt a pang of empathy, realizing that the woman before her had been through a similar ordeal.